Find out about their cruises and their train trips and the waterways of the Czars. And you can also call their 800 number, which is 1-800-360-9550. And there you go. That's it for the first half of Raw Radio Travel. I'm Farrah Gordon, your host. We'll be back in a few moments with our next guest, Sarah Godwin. Welcome back to the second half of Raw Radio Travel. I'm Farrah Gordon, your host, and don't forget, if you've missed something, an email or at least an email address or a website or an 800 number, you can send me an email to rawradiotravel@hotmail.com. That's rawradiotravel@hotmail.com, and send me the information that you want, and I'll send it right back to you. I'm Farrah Gordon, your host. And we've got Sarah Godwin, who's going to come on and tell us about her latest adventure in Paris and I think other destinations within the continent. Hi, Sarah. Welcome back.
Hey, thank you, Farrah. And yes, indeed. We did 2 weeks in Paris and then a week in Italy doing Venice and Florence. But I'm mostly going to talk about Paris.
I mean, you just really do. And you're calling from New York, no less.
I am calling from a teeny tiny town in New York called Mount Ivy,
right.
In a classic 50s style hotel that literally does not have a telephone in the room, so I'm calling from my cell phone. God bless technology.
Isn't it wonderful? There are times when it's just terrific. We couldn't be without it.
Wonderful stuff.
Well, yahoo. So here you are. You're in Paris. We last spoke to you when you were on your way.
I was just getting ready to leave, and we got into Paris. The weather was mostly overcast. You forget how far north Paris is.
I know.
You take a look at the map, and then you realize that it's on a parallel with Newfoundland. And we got to really experience that because it was raw and chilly. Forget about April in Paris and Gene Kelly. That was filmed in a studio in Burbank,
In June. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we were very glad that we had taken warm coats with us. But we had a fabulous apartment. As I told you, this was a new experience for me. In the past, I've always stayed in hotels. And this time we
as do most people.
Yes.
Right.
We rented a magnificent 3-bedroom apartment. And it was literally sandwiched between the river, between the Seine and Notre Dame. It was on the Ile Cité. Right at that point where there is a little pedestrian bridge that goes over to the Ile Saint-Louis.
How beautiful.
So it was just a gorgeous area. If you stand on the balcony, this is kind of a flat iron building with a balcony right on the point. And if you stood on the balcony, you could see 6 bridges in one direction and 5 bridges in the other. So it was an 11-bridge view and really quite lovely.
That is fabulous.
Right. The Seine was in flood, so the embankment was pretty much underwater. But
it was in floods. Now, is this from all the rain they had?
This is from all the rain they had, and this the fellow who runs Guest Apartment Services, which is the company through which we booked,
right,
was telling us that between January 1st and April 15th, France had received all of the rain that it normally gets in 1 year.
Wow.
So in the first quarter, they had their annual rainfall. We didn't get all that much rain. What we mostly had were little squalls here and there. But
right.
Nevertheless, my point is, April in Paris is not April in San Francisco. Bring a warm coat and don't forget your umbrella.
Right. Absolutely. In fact, it's not even April in New York because when I was there, it was 92 degrees and very humid, and that was just last week, 2 weeks ago now.
Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
And the weather, by the way, in New York right now is perfectly lovely. Couldn't be nicer, and we are en route. We're going to drive up the Hudson the scenic route and head over to Hyannis, and we will be in Nantucket tomorrow.
Sounds pretty nice to me.
I'm so excited about being in Nantucket. My sister, who runs the Carlisle Inn there, tells me that the garden that we put in last fall is just blooming magnificently, and this will be the first time I've ever gotten to see the garden that I put in there.
Oh, that's
I go in the
wonderful.
fall and I plant it, but I'm never there during the season to see it bloom.
That's going to be a whole new thing.
Whole new experience. Now, to go back to Paris, this apartment
Right.
was a whole new experience. We took my husband's daughter, Lisa, and her 7-year-old daughter, Hannah. So I had the ultimate grandparents experience.
Ah, yes.
We had.
The multi-generational trip
That's right. Well, but of introducing a child to Paris.
must have been fun.
We had the most glorious time. We got to the apartment, and Christophe and Philippe had filled it with fresh flowers, huge bouquets of roses. Absolutely
Oh, how lovely.
magnificent. It's a stunning place anyway. And as I told you, we're right across the street from Notre Dame. So Easter Sunday we went over. We took Hannah to Easter services at
What a spectacular thing
at
to
Notre
do.
Dame.
Right.
Which was just gloriousness itself, and the services were conducted by the French Cardinal Lustiger.
Wonderful.
So that with the the Catholic Church, if they do anything well, they do pageantry splendidly.
Very well. And
It
that would
was
be one of
just-
the places to see it, too.
Oh, it was just magnificent. Could not have been any more dramatic.
Huh.
And of course, it was a morning when you couldn't think of anything nicer than to be in a gorgeous, crowded cathedral looking at the stained glass because, again, it was cold and nasty and pouring rain, and there were 1 million tourists standing out in the rain to climb the bell tower.
Oh,
I was
how
just
wonderful.
astonished.
Did you do
The rain-
that? Did you climb the bell tower?
I did not climb the bell tower. However, one of the things that Hannah wanted to do was to go to the Eiffel Tower. I haven't been in years and years. And when we got there, the lines were so long that the only short line was the one for people climbing the tower instead of going
Right.
up in the gondola.
Right.
And I have to say this for my 7-year-old granddaughter because I am so proud of her. She climbed to the second level, which is about 2 million stairs.
Right. 2 million stairs for a 7-year-old. That's pretty good.
It was very impressive. This is the ultimate stairmaster. If you want to go to Paris and eat glorious food, then make sure that at some point in your trip you go to the Eiffel Tower and you climb to the second level.
Right. That will wear off all that Parisian
That
cuisine.
will take off whatever you've eaten. It will just vanish instantly. Now, if you want an even better view of Paris than
Right.
you can get from the Eiffel Tower, you need to go to the department store on the right bank, right on the river,
Yes.
called Le Samaritain, Samaritain, the Samaritain,
Right.
and you take the center elevators up to the 9th floor, and then there is a tiny little winding staircase up to the roof terrace,
Ooh.
and it's free, and you have this glorious, glorious overview of Paris.
How wonderful.
Now, one of the things that I'm going to recommend that our listeners do is that they go to the website for Gourmet Magazine, which is www.gourmet.com,
Right.
and look for their March Collector's Edition, which was all on Paris. And the information is even better on the website than it is in the magazine itself, because when you print it out, it comes out by arrondissement. As you know, Paris is divided into circles,
Yes.
concentric circles. And
Interesting
so-
city planning.
oh, yes, brilliant city planning. By the way,
Right.
the building we were staying in was built by the famous city planner, the Baron Haussmann. So
Wonderful.
The Haussmann building.
That must be incredible.
It was just a stupendous place. It was so much fun that I would cheerfully do it again in a minute.
Oh, I know you would. I can tell already.
Yeah, no, this is now my place in Paris.
You're right.
By the way, the two young men who run it tell me that they have 30 properties that they're managing, all of them on either the Ile Cité or the Ile Saint-Louis. So
Wonderful.
you're right smack in the middle of Paris.
See, this is a good way to go to Paris.
Well, and they have everything from studios to 3 and 4 bedroom apartments.
Wow.
So if you go and do a share with, say 2 couples go or 3 couples go,
Right.
you can really get the cost down to well below what any just ordinary hotel room would give you, and this is by no means ordinary.
Yes, exactly. It sounds stupendous.
Yeah, these are all luxury apartments. Anyway, the list comes out from the Gourmet website, printed by Arrondissement, and Lisa was the one who, she takes Gourmet, and so she had shown it to us, and I got a copy, and then we had another guest come and visit us, my husband's sister Ellen. She got a copy, and we all...
Well, you all had a great time.
Right, we all went through the list, and we checked off the things we most wanted to do, and then we just, in the morning when we got up, we'd say, okay, which things are we going to do today? And we just went through their list like it was our agenda.
Wonderful.
Glorious, good time. It's a fabulous list of suggestions.
That's a good idea, actually, isn't it? And you all agreed on this.
Yeah.
More or less.
It's really the insider's Paris.
Right.
It lets you live there as though you were the most sophisticated possible Parisian. Which is a lovely way to live.
Sounds wonderful. How was your French?
My French improves as I go along.
Sure. Because you're there in the environment, which is nice.
That's exactly right. What I need to do is each time is retrain my ear.
Right.
And eventually, I'm speaking without having to put the sentence together in my head before I can say it.
Right. Sort of like manual typing.
That's exactly right. I get to go from manual typing to computer, but it takes me a few days to be able to do that.
Exactly.
Now, being across the street from the Ile Saint-Louis, you are across the street from some of the world's finest ice cream.
Ah.
And it's all handmade. It is literally world famous. The name of the company is Bertillon, Bertillon. And if you don't eat their ice cream, there is something seriously wrong with you.
Right.
They do these amazing fruit flavors. Things never imagined being ice cream, and they are so glorious. They are just, it is beyond description, but don't miss it.
And this is from viewing distance from your apartment there?
Well, practically. You walk across the little pedestrian bridge and down the street called Rue Saint-Louis-en-Ile, about 4 blocks.
Ah, okay.
And it will be on your right-hand side. Don't miss it.
It's just enough of a walk to justify going there.
Exactly, to justify the calories.
Yes, exactly.
Now, right across the street at the other corner, we're on one corner of the little bridge, and on the opposite corner on the Ile Saint-Louis is the Café Flore en Ile. And we went over there every single morning for croissants and what they call chocolat chaud ancien, which means old-fashioned hot chocolate.
Right. That just sounds incredible.
Oh, what they do is they bring you 2 pitchers. One is very hot chocolate syrup, and the other is very hot steamed milk. And you pick up both pitchers,
and you pour them together.
And you pour them together so that the streams mix, and you make your own hot chocolate. And I want you to know that Hannah picked up the technique in about 30 seconds.
You know, you always do this to Tomas and I when we're here without dinner, and we're always hearing about this incredible stuff. He looks at me. We can see it now, pouring that chocolate and that steamed milk. Man.
Well, it's about to get worse, because one of the things that I very much wanted to do, as I told you, was I had this fantasy of pretending that I really lived in Paris, which you do with an apartment. It's harder with a hotel.
No, I mean, you really can feel like you're one of the residents.
Exactly. And so the first day we were there, Chuck found a charming little restaurant about 1.5 blocks from our apartment. It's just off the Rue Colombe, but if anybody were to look for it, what you really want to do is go to Notre Dame and ask for the nearest police station, because it's about 10 steps from the police station, and you'll find it in a second.
Way to go.
The way that you'll find it is that it has wisteria growing all up the entire building to the eaves of the roof, which is about 3 stories, and it was all in bloom, and it was so beautiful.
Boy.
And they had big window boxes full of ivy geranium that were just getting ready to bloom. It couldn't have been prettier. The chef has her farm, by the way, in the Midi-Pyrénées, in a province called the Auvergne, which is Auveyron.
Wow.
And it's authentic country cooking. One of the things that Chuck really loves is what he calls real food or authentic food.
Yes.
I'm very fond of the haute cuisine. I love innovative food. I love classic French cuisine. But what he loves is the traditional country cooking.
Yes.
The way people authentically eat in the country, and that is what Odette does. The name of the chef is Odette, and she is in the kitchen every night that the restaurant is open. It is called Old Paris, Le Vol Paris.
Oh, how wonderful.
And
just a great
went
name.
In there and had a meal. Tomas, I can only apologize. We had boeuf bourguignon that was so tender you could not pick it up on a fork.
Wow.
It literally fell apart on the fork. And before that, they gave us a wonderful country pate that was very thick and what shall I say? It was rough. It wasn't a smooth. It was very chunky. It was not a smooth pate at all. But the real country stuff. Her salad was made with a homemade cheese from her farm, and for dessert, oh, Tomas, I'm so sorry. We had tarte tatin and strawberries with creme fraiche.
Oh my gosh!
All homemade.
They do it to torture us. That's it.
I've done it. I'm done. I'm not going to do any more food.
I don't believe it. Okay.
I'm not going to do any more food. One of the things that I wanted to talk about this time is this was the first time I've ever taken a small child to Paris. When I took my daughter to Paris, she was already a teenager and spoke pretty fluent French and had her own interests and her own agenda of the things that she wanted to see.
Sure.
But this was taking a little person and doing the introduction. So there were some places we found that are just, and some things to do that were just marvelous. One of them that I was really never conscious of before is that Paris is just dotted with carousels.
Yes.
Wonderful.
And see, you wouldn't have even thought about this if you hadn't had a
No.
7-year-old. No.
I would never even have, I mean, they would have been very much in my peripheral vision. But because we had Hannah with us, we started really looking for them.
Yes.
And there's a wonderful Belle Epoque 2-story carousel in front of the City Hall, the Hotel de Ville, on the right bank. Don't miss it. It was so much fun that Chuck insisted on riding with Hannah.
Oh, boy.
Yes,
And he's so tiny himself, right?
Right. He was protecting her. And if you go catty corner from the Hotel de Ville, actually it's right across the street, across the Rue Saint-Antoine, there's a department store everybody just calls BHB. And again, this is on the gourmet list. You've got to go down into their basement because it will just knock your socks off. It's a department store like every department store you've ever been in the United States until you get to the ground floor.
Oh, boy.
Basement floor.
Oh, boy.
And the basement floor is a hardware store.
Oh.
With everything you could possibly imagine in any builder's emporium. They have power tools. They have everything you might need for your garden. They have all the bathroom fixtures you might possibly want, all the screws and nuts and bolts.
Oh, my
But
gosh.
it's all set up. It's displayed as though it were a department store.
Exactly. It's all beautiful.
It's all beautiful. It is just an amazing experience.
Chuck must have gone nuts.
So for the man in your life
Yes.
who doesn't want to go to a department store or thinks he doesn't,
You can park him down there.
yeah, park him in the BHC basement and come back and get him when you're done.
That's incredible.
Okay, do we need to take a break, or can I tell you about my wild swan?
Well, I will take just a very short break, and we'll come back and hear about the wild swan. How's that sound?
Wonderful.
Okay. We'll be back in a moment with Sarah Godwin in her trip to Paris. Well, you're back with Fair Gordon and Raw Radio Travel. And don't forget, if you miss anything on the show that you wanted to record, send me an email to rawradiotravel@hotmail.com. That's rawradiotravel@hotmail.com. And I'll send you back the information right away. So we're catching up with Sarah in her wild swan song.
Yes, here's what happened. Chuck and I are both very serious birders, and we had taken our binoculars with us, and we did throw them in the suitcase. Of course, we were unable to find them until after we got home. But Chuck was standing on the balcony very early one morning, and finally he came back in and he said, "You got to come look at this. I think I see a swan."
Right.
I said, "A swan?" He said, "Yes, I think there's a swan in the Seine." So I went out on the balcony, and that is definitely what it appeared to be. So rather than going straight to breakfast, we went across the bridge and then down toward the embankment. I think I told you it was flooded, but
Yes.
as far as we could go. before we, were wading up to our ankles. And
you didn't have your wellies with you.
I did not have
No.
my wellies with me.
No.
I should have. They would have been exceedingly useful. But it was very definitely a wild swan, and I had taken the precaution of stuffing some bread in my pockets before we ran down there. And so we threw a couple of pieces in the water to see if the swan would eat them. And the swan came up and ate them with apparently no fear of people whatsoever.
And this was a white swan.
This was a white male swan.
Right.
I would say a young adult male. Usually by the time they're adults, by the time they're breeding pairs, they're in pairs.
Right.
Swans mate for life. So I assumed that this was a young adult male that had not yet mated.
A teenager.
A teenage swan.
Yeah.
And I finally couldn't resist it, so I got down on my knees and reached as far as I could from the embankment, and the swan came and ate from my hand.
Wow.
There, I was so excited you'd have thought I was the 7-year-old on the trip. It was all I could do not to jump up and down.
Did Chuck capture this with his camera?
Actually, no.
Uh-huh.
But, later, when his sister Ellen came, she got several pictures of it. So we're counting on her
Right.
Photos to document this fact. But what happened was that everybody fell in love with the wild swan, and so we made it a habit to go down every morning
Oh, how nice.
and feed the swan. But I have to tell you, while he was perfectly willing to eat everybody else's bread, he was only willing to eat from my hand.
Aha.
So
You had that special touch.
I have my apartment in Paris and my wild swan.
I'll tell you, it's that special touch, Sarah. And the wildlife photographer there managed to miss it.
And the wildlife photographer. Now, the other thing that I wanted to tell you, to go back for just one moment to this meal, is that the last time we were in Paris, which was just a year or so ago, we were shocked at how high food prices were. Even in the markets, in the open air markets, prices were very, very high. They have gone down significantly.
Wonderful.
The meal that I just described to you at this charming restaurant was about 200 francs, which comes to about $25.
Wonderful. Wow.
Which is
That's nothing wrong with that at all.
Well, you can't eat for $25. You can't get that kind of a meal in San Francisco.
No. No, absolutely
not.
not.
In L.A. either.
No, absolutely not.
And I know you can't in New York.
We were talking earlier about Australia, and because of the value of the U.S. dollar, you get $2 Australian for every $1 U.S. dollar. So they also have some equally wonderful deals.
Yeah, just amazing buys.
Right. But so that's nice to hear, because Paris was always considered to be so expensive that it was out of reach for a lot of people.
Food isn't, and if you find the right places to shop for clothes and other things, and things like that, it's not that expensive either. I had always assumed that the right place to look was on the left bank, but the best place we found, what Chuck calls a real people street, is on the right bank, the Rue Saint-Antoine, which is St. Anthony's Street.
Yes.
And you walk up and down, and it's full of shops with very, very affordable things. At one point, remember the time when you and I were in Montreal, and we absolutely had to get extra bags to carry all our gear, and we got hockey bags?
Yes, I do. By Cooper.
Were on sale for next to nothing.
Right.
Well, I've used that hockey bag about forever. It's, just about to shred, and it's been, it's been 10 years or so.
Oh, at least, yeah.
Well, we needed to buy another bag, and we went over to the Rue Saint-Antoine. We walked around for about 20 minutes before we found a shop, and we picked up a marvelous bag. This is just for bringing home the things that we had bought.
Sure.
So it isn't enormous, but it's a good-sized carry-on, and I don't think we paid $15 for it.
See? Incredible.
So you need to be in the right areas.
Exactly.
If you want to just look at how the rich spend their money, go to the Alma metro station, get off at the Pont Alma metro station, and walk down the Rue Montaigne for about 3 blocks. It is nothing but designer shops.
Oh, wow.
Much nicer than the Rue Faubourg Saint-Honoré, which is the classic place to go over by the Louvre.
Yes.
No. Go down the Rue Montaigne. It is much more beautiful. It's a tree-lined avenue. It's just gorgeous. And the prices, will just take your breath away.
Oh, how? Yeah, right. I'm sure they won't fit in that little bag that you bought, right?
The price of the money doesn't fit.
Exactly. The money won't fit in there either. Yeah.
Now, there's a
now we know why plastic credit cards were invented.
absolutely.
You can't carry all that cash.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
There's a London designer named Joseph. You can't find him much in the U.S. Sometimes in New York you can find a store. But he does the best job of cutting women's pants of any designer in the world. The guy is just brilliant on women's slacks. And I've got a few of his things that I've managed to scrounge here or there, and I wanted to
Yes.
see what the store looked like, the things that were new. Let me tell you how expensive it is. It's so expensive that they would not put the prices on the tags in francs. They put them on in pounds.
Right.
So you had to do the math.
As to not fall over completely after you had gone through the
So
exercise.
they didn't have to have paramedics on hand to pick you up off the floor when you realized what the total finally came to. Because of course, if you're like me, you're doing the pounds into francs and then the francs into
Sure.
dollars, and then you go.
Yeah. After that manual typing, you choke.
Right.
Say, did I get this right? Is that what this is?
No, I'm standing there with my little calculator. I know I did the math right.
Yeah, it can be pretty amazing.
Reading.
Well,
There are lots of wonderful shops there. There's a Frite shop. There's the Porthole if you want to look at household linens. There are some glorious baby clothes. Do not, I say to you, do not take your credit card with you.
No.
Or your traveler's checks on the day that you go there.
put them in the apartment safe or some such place.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Or have somebody hold your hands behind your back.
Or if you're traveling with a tightwad, they're a good one to keep track of your money.
It is fun to go in and look around, and the shops are just beautiful.
Must be amazing.
Just beautiful.
Lovely, lovely. And then you also, yes, go ahead.
The one other thing that I wanted to say is if you've got a child with you, go to Luxembourg Park and Luxembourg Gardens, and rent a toy boat to float in the fountain. They give you the boat and they give you the little stick to push it around with, and it is just more fun than you can possibly imagine, and it costs about $2.50 to do this.
Yeah, that sounds like a nice price.
And then there is a little playground just up the stairs from the pond, from the fountain. The playground's one of the finest children's playgrounds I've ever seen in my life. Again, it's fenced, it's enclosed. There are chairs around the outside where all the grown-ups sit and chat with each other. The children go in and play. They're perfectly safe. There are what they call gardiens. There are caretakers, people who watch to make sure nothing dangerous happens.
Sounds wonderful.
It costs you $2. It's a wonderful place to take a child. Just glorious.
And you would have never known this if you hadn't taken your granddaughter, which is really neat.
Well, I would not have gone to the playground. I've been to Luxembourg Gardens, but I, of course, go to look at the gardens.
Did you go to Versailles?
Well, we did go to Versailles. The first time we went, it was closed down by a strike, which is so typically French. The second time, when we got there, we did walk around. The damage is far less than I had understood it to be from everything I'd read.
Right.
And not much of the damage actually appears to have occurred in the main body of the garden. It actually occurred on the Grand Allées, the avenues that take you to the Grand Trianon and the Petit Trianon.
Ah,
and
okay.
those were completely destroyed and have had to be totally replanted.
Well, now, I can hear some music in the background there. I have a feeling we're running out of time. In fact,
I have the feeling we are.
Yes, judging by the clock, we're just going to have you back to talk about the rest of your trip.
Next week we'll do Italy, Venice, and Florence.
Sounds like a deal. Thank you, Sarah, for being with us, and we'll talk to you next week on Raw Radio Travel.
My pleasure. Take care.
Okay, bye for now. Have fun in Nantucket.
Perfect.
I'll tell you, what a life. Sounds pretty good to me, doesn't it, Tomas? Yes, sir. Okay, so there you are. Raw Radio Travel, the best travel show on the planet.
Hello, CRN listeners. Want to find out more about your favorite CRN show host? Want to log on and find out what's happening on Wrestle Talk this week, or on the Polka Party with Dick Sinclair, or maybe tune in and find out what's going on Cable Talk, or the What's Cookin' Show, or Greg Hunter, or some of your favorite metaphysical and psychic programs here on CRN. Then log on to our show, or Greg Hunter, or some of your favorite metaphysical and psychic programs here on CRN. Then log on to our website at www.crni.net. That's www.crni.net. We'll tell you how you can win contests and get special offers too, offers that are only available on our website. So if you have a computer or you know someone who has one, log on to our new website, www.crni.net. Log on, tune in, and find out all about your favorite CRN shows. Plus, you can listen to CRN 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 right on our website. So log on, www.crni.net, and win some prizes too. www.crni.net.
The radio channels. The radio channels. CRN.
This sponsored program is presented for its entertainment value only as a service to our listeners. CRN does not endorse or object to any topics or views discussed in the program, and we suggest you always consult your own medical, legal, financial, or personal advisor.
Linda Salvin. Linda Salvin. Linda Salvin. Radio Psychic. Radio Psychic. Radio Psychic. Linda Salvin. Radio Psychic.
Here we go, everybody. This is Linda Salvin live at CRN 1-800-336-2225. 1-800-336-2225. I'm a psychic, a healer, a channeler, and your host for the next 1 hour right here. And all calls are welcome. 1-800-336-2225. I'll answer questions with regards to love, career, finance, romance, God, who's God, what's God, is there a God, how do you find God? Are you moving, traveling, going to school, breaking up, getting together? In love, out of love. Tall, short, fat, thin, blonde, blue-eyed, dark-haired, green-eyed, brown hair, brown eyes. Doesn't matter. You're a human being. Call in 1-800-336-2225. 1-800-336-2225. To reach me off the air, lindasalvin.com. Or my website, I keep doing that, lindasalvin.com, or 888-509-1077. 888-509-1077. The lines are just packed here. I'm going to go in and take a call in just a moment, but I want to talk about the Wicks of Wisdom, and I want to talk about some of the...
Watch Frontline. Local presentation of EastEnders on KTEH is made possible by PowerPrint, fulfilling your trade show, convention, and organizational event display needs at fabricbanners.com. Proud to support public television in Silicon Valley. And by the members of KTEH.